This segment deserves to be opened up with a question. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I bring up easy bosses? Well, you guys may have different answers, but for the sake of this question, we'll say the first boss. And since the difficulty of the game gradually increased, that means the second boss of the game will be provided with much more difficulty than the first, but it will still be a fair challenge, right? Well, yeah, but occasionally, some games crank the difficulty level of their second bosses too high. And to see an example of this, we come to EarthBound and the second boss of the game, Frank Fly. To start off, I really don't like this guy's character. What kind of sicko would attack a kid just because he wouldn't introduce himself to him? With a knife, no less. I get it, he's the leader of a group of troublemakers, but in spite of that, and the many weird things and enemies encountered in this game, it still makes no sense. A game needs to have at least 1 ounce of logic, people! Even in a game with an unborn extraterrestrial as a final boss. But what about the fight itself? Well, let's just say that if you didn't get anything from the drugstore, you'll have no chance against this guy nor his gang of sharks. That's the name of the group he's leading, not actual sharks. He has 3 attacks, his knife, swinging, and saying something nasty. When he says something nasty, it reduces your critical hit ratio. His swinging attack doesn't do much damage as long as you have something like a cheap bracelet and a baseball cap. But his knife? Oh boy. It is his strongest attack, and it doesn't matter if you have a cheap bracelet or a baseball cap. It will always take away more than 20 health points from you. And by the time you reach him, you'll have more than 60. Granted, he too also has more than 60 health points, but considering how weak your attacks are compared to his, taking him down will take forever. Now, yes, you can use hypnosis, but there's a chance he'll either resist it or wake back up instantly. Oh, and just like Misty Starmie, he'll always attack first, so he won't even let you heal. I was going to place this guy at number 2, but after I did some thinking, he's not that all bad compared to the top 6 as long as you're at a decent level. Remember how I said that without the cheap bracelet or a baseball cap, his gang of sharks are a pain? Well, I still stand by that. As long as you brought what I brought out at the drugstore, they won't be much of a nuisance to you. Plus, they'll give you decent experience once you defeat them. And good thing too, because the only other enemies you encounter at this point in the game are dogs, crows, and snakes, which barely give you any experience points. Once that you've decided that you can hold your own against the sharks, you can hold your own against their leader too. Though you still have to go through the tedious formula of bash, heal, rinse and repeat until he's tamed. And you better stock up on healing items because once you defeat him, Frank will have his Frankie style Mark II to fight you immediately. Another reason he's lower is because that after you take down Frankie style Mark II, he'll start accepting his defeat and will start helping you by not only telling you information about the giant's death, which you need in order to progress through the game, but is also willing to heal up your party and even go so far to be concerned about Ness's safety during the final fight against Gygus. Just go to show that even terrorists can sometimes have a soft spot on people. Sadly though, I don't have a soft spot for the next half bosses on the list. The Piranha Plant for Mario Party DS. How do you deal with this thing? Well, in other Mario games, you kill Piranha Plants by using your power-ups, punching them, and in the recent 3D games, stomping on them. In this fight, however, you cannot do any of those because Bowser has just shrunk you down to the size of a peanut. Wait, what's that? You're saying that Mario and his gang can use your small size to jump into the Piranha Plant's mouth and defeat him by messing with his insides, like Ant-Man screwing over Iron Man and Captain America Civil War? You guys make me sick. That joke as an excuse to make an MCU reference in this segment aside, however, here's how the fight works. The Piranha Plant will start sucking you up with his inhale ability that he totally didn't steal from Kirby, but after he eats up a few bomb seeds instead, he'll start chewing them and spit them out so he can hit you with them. To damage him, you need to grab one of the seeds that the plant spits out from his mouth, and when he proceeds to suck you up again, throw the seed in his mouth and watch his insides explode. Oh wait, you can't. This is a Mario game. But anyways, does that sound simple to you? Well, yes, but you have to pick up the bombs at the right timing, otherwise they'll explode on you. Granted, you have 5 health points in this fight while Piranha Plant only has 3, but then again, the other bosses in the game have 3 as well. When the Piranha Plant attempts to suck you up while he's at full health, or is missing a third of his health bar, then it's not too much of a problem. But when he sucks you up when his health hits 33%, the duration of his inhale ability is so long that no matter what you try, you always get sent into the plant's mouth. Well, if you're around the age of 8 that is. That's actually the reason why this boss is so high, because just like Toad, this boss was a nightmare to fight when I was a kid. But at least with Toad, I managed to beat him once I got his pattern down even as a kid, This boss, however, I couldn't even beat him until I was in 8th grade, but since my copy of the game got waterlogged, I had to remaster this guy on an emulator. And yes, I had to bring it up because guess what? This boss is now easier than I initially made him out to be as a kid. I don't know if it's because that keyboard controls give you more of a chance for you to not get sucked up by the piranha plant compared to the DS controls even when he loses 2/3 of his health, but normally you think I should be happy as I get to see what the rest of story mode is like. But no, I wasn't. Maybe it's because of the feeling that this abomination was the bane of my childhood and yet it's a joke in my teen years. I don't know why, but there's something about this that I can't lay a smile on. But whether you find this fight nightmarishly difficult or jokingly easy, this boss is still boring. And tedious too, as the duration of the piranha plant eating up the seeds and spitting them out takes forever. Oh, and since you need the A button to ascend, you'll be battle mashing a lot in this fight too. Something that Mario Party is not innocent about, even outside of DS. Like Frank, I was going to put this fight higher, but the more I put my mind into it, the next 5 bosses are much worse. Okay, so number 5 on this list is from another Capcom game. Alright, which game is it? Look, I don't care if you respect the opinions of one or not. If you like Strider on the Genesis, then good for you. But to me, this game has so many fatal flaws that I can write an essay about them. The hitboxes are way too big, the level design is ridiculous, there are slopes and cramped up spaces everywhere, there's also way too much foreground props blocking the background, and this game has the absolute worst jump I've ever seen. Bottom line, while playing this game, half the time, I don't think I have a clue on what I'm even doing. But for those who have read the title, we're here to pick apart a boss in this game that I totally hate. The question is, which one? To be honest, I don't know. The first boss you fight is a guy wannabe with a similar looking flat top who can toss you against a wall. And considering the fact you only have 3 bars of health at this point of the game, if you have only 1 bar of health before reaching him, then you have no chance against him without losing a life. Despite this, however, he's really easy, only going down in a couple of slashes with your sword. The second boss is even worse. Not only does it have a poor looking design, but as long as you stay near it, the laser it shoots out will never hit you. You can just slash away at him until it's destroyed. After this, Okay, you know what? This game's music is awful, which I don't understand why, as Capcom is the king of good music. Either way, I'm switching the track here with a much better song they composed. Ah, much more pleasing to the ears. Anyways, after you take down that Wily Fortress boss reject, you come across a bunch of USSR guys who turn themselves into a giant centipede. Oh boy. I take back what I said about Frank being ridiculous. At least he and his gang of sharks don't turn into a giant supersized insect without any special effects. This thing will constantly hound on your butt and also like to turn its body around too. And it doesn't matter where you jump, those steel sickles are so big that it's nearly impossible to jump over them. You can use its body segments as platforms and you can cling onto them too, but why would I do that? This thing can be defeated without them supporting my feet. Not to mention they only make this fight even more confusing and frustrating. Like I said, in some parts of this game, I have no idea what I'm doing, and this boss is a good example of that. I don't know what I'm doing here, I don't know what it's doing here, and frankly, I don't care. But I can excuse the mediocrity of this boss as it's part of the first level. The rest of the bosses are better, right? No. After you go through an extremely short path leading to a base in the snowy mountain, which you need to slide into by the way, you find Mecha King Kong. It doesn't have any projectiles, all it does is punches at the air, and it never changes its pattern, so all you have to do is slash away at it until it's destroyed. And then you go through the worst platforming section in this whole game and encounter Solo, who to me looks oddly similar to Bumblebee from Transformers and loves to stay off screen and wasting your precious time. When you take Solo down and hijack one of the Grandmaster's ship, hey, you want to know what we totally didn't have in the last level? Street Fighter rejects! 3 Chun-Li lookalikes will start attacking you once you got on top of the ship. Their kicks are very fast and long range. And considering Hiryu's range is just as long as Ryu Hayabusa's, yeah, you need to have the perfect run skills of Roll Mithril if you want to defeat them, let alone defeating them at full health. And since the arena here is the entire battleship, if you fall off the top, yeah, prepare to have fun climbing back up. So yeah, I'm not putting one boss on here, I'm putting every single one on here. Granted, I haven't beaten Ton Poo and her twins, and I haven't reached this Amazon beast, but guys, I tried. so hard to endure through this game just to fight all the bosses so I can make a justification on if I hate every single one of them or not. But Tonghu and her twins are so cheap, I had to rage quit this game. So to conclude this entry, every single boss in this game, or at least the ones I faced, has either ranged from easy, annoying, make me want to say what the heck am I even doing here, or make me think that Capcom deliberately want me to stop playing their game. If that's the case, they succeeded. And what's worse than the fight themselves is the shing sound that plays every time Kiryu slashes his light sword. Ah! Hit the mute button! Hit the mute button!